sit down, shut up, and hang on to your seats, cause this is Going Off with Rap Critic and Muse. One thing I think we can both relate to was something you'd look forward to in addition to every new Weird Al album. Your boy would do ALtv. You remember ALtv?
Oh, yeah, of course. I specifically remember, hearing about, hearing about, the past ones and seeing clips of it. And then when the new one came out for the Poodle Hat album, being like, oh my god, I can't wait, I gotta watch it. And I recorded it on my DVR and shit. Yeah.
The first one I remember seeing was for Running with Scissors, which was the 99 one. So it had, The Saga Begins and all that. And I remember about that block very specifically that he played a Ben Folds 5 music video, which was not new. It was at least 5 years old at that point. And a Bjork music video that was animated by the people that did the old Ren and Stimpy animation, that kind of 90s gross out kind of aesthetic. What I thought was really cool about that was that it had a sense of, wow, these are music videos that MTV wouldn't normally be showing.
Oh, of course.
It had the sense of Al would always say, I'm gonna play the videos that I want to watch, and it almost kind of had that sense. Just a real quick rundown of the rise and fall of this concept, because I think it's fascinating. The first few, it's just Al in a room, and he's spoofing, everything about MTV, from the contests to the way the VJs talk to...
I really want to go back and see that now, just to see how he lampoons it.
There's even a few, commercial spoofs that made fun of, the really cheap shit they used to hawk on MTV back before they would get, really big sponsors. It was really wow, they invited him on and he is just making fun of their whole shit. This is so great. And the videos you'd see were, really, either they weren't always novelty. They were sometimes, but sometimes they were just, kind of obscure new wave. And it was this is kind of cool. I probably wouldn't have seen this otherwise. I know this wasn't in rotation. A few years down the line, though, it starts getting a little less that. And eventually, I want to say it was for the one for Bad Hair Day. The whole gimmick is just, we play the music video of a song that Al parodied, and then the video for the Al parody.
First, I get to play a video that isn't so funny, and then I get to play my parody of it, and then another unfunny video, and then my parody of it. And I do that over and over for 2 hours. Isn't that great? How do I think of these things?
There is seriously one ALtv where he just plays the music video for Alive by Pearl Jam, and then it was when you could tell MTV was becoming a big fuck deal.
Yeah, they didn't really care about oh, let's have this kooky silly guy on to do something really different. It's just oh yeah, this is the guy, but don't look, it's the 90s now, don't be too, all right, and we got a business to run.
Something else I really liked and I was able to find a few episodes of was that they would do guest VJs, and it was hey, here's Dan Aykroyd here to promote some real shit movie from 83.
Fucking Dragnet or something.
He's still kind of riding the Saturday Night Live coattails. He's still doing the wild and crazy guys voice. And
if you don't remember me, I was on Saturday Night Live, and those shows, we did them a long, long time ago, but kids are walking up to me now and saying, hey, Dan, you're great on television. I gotta say, hey, we did those shows so long ago that I feel like an old man. What's a dinosaur like me doing in a modern music television studio like this? I don't know. I haven't figured it out, but I'm glad I'm here.
They just let this person be in a studio on camera and no one else in the room. I know there's people behind the cameras, but you don't ever see them. So it's just, hey, person who's never done this before and is completely foreign to the whole music video channel concept, try to be a VJ for a while. And Dan Aykroyd is just hey, I got this hat. You see this hat? I got it.
This is a wacky feather sticking out of it. I'm Dan Aykroyd. This is the peak of my comedy.
Here is Mel Purvis's boater. And Mel Purvis was the FBI agent who killed John Dillinger. Remember that old series, The Untouchables, with Robert Stack? Hey, Rico, Youngblood,
Bring the car around by the back. We're going to talk to Mr. Nitty tonight. Maybe that doll down there at the drugstore can tell us what she knows, but I don't think we're going to get much out of her. All right.
Remember that? That was a terrific show.
It's the absolute flying by the seat of your pants. Okay, how much time do I have to fill? Fuck. All right. I guess I'll just talk about whatever the hell until that time's over, I guess.
Oh my
It's a really interesting watch. Is what I'm trying to say. And that's what the intro was a reference to, was to the ALtv intros. Al and all that shit was life back then, for real. It reminded me of, like, just the spontaneity, especially, that we just don't have in how, like, MTV is like, hey, we're just gonna play a video, but you don't know what video, you know? And it's like, there's a sense of discovering shit that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like large swaths of my childhood was spent just kind of like on the channel MTV. Like, I remember so many times I would wake up in the morning, like at 6 a.m., just to watch music videos. And when you think about it, it is the weirdest thing, because it's like, it's not guaranteeing you anything. It's just kind of like, well, let's just see what comes out of the box this time, you know? Like, could be a rock video, could be a hip-hop video, could be a techno video. Like, you just kind of don't know. Like, there is something just enjoyable about that, and it's like, man, how did they screw that up? Because who doesn't enjoy that?
It really is funny you bring that up, of, like, I might spend an hour watching this channel, and I might not like any of it.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of part of it.
Yeah, it really is like a, you know, I really enjoyed the show Twilight Zone when I was younger, and part of it is that feeling of just like, hey, all the motherfuckers could die in this episode, you don't know what could happen, you know, like, every 20 minutes,
who knows what the fuck.
Yeah, every 20 minutes, it's new stakes, so you don't know what could happen, you know, and there's a bit of enjoyment to that, you know what I mean? Pearl Jam versus the man who sold the world. Begin!
Ooh, yeah. I didn't even ask. Do you want to start with verses?
Yeah, let's start
Bowie?
with verses. Let's start with verses, yeah.
They just put out 10. It's one of the biggest fucking smash rock albums of the early 90s, and Pearl Jam becomes a fucking household name instantaneously.
Yeah, I didn't realize how early in the 90s this was. This is like 91. And I was just recently doing the Billboard Top 100 joints, and we just happened to be on 1993, and so I was like, oh hey, let's throw in, you know, the Pearl Jam songs that didn't chart, like, what the fuck? But then I was just realizing, like, wait, 93, that means the first album with Jeremy, that was 91? I was like, oh shit!
Pop culture was so craved for grunge and that whole aesthetic, and Pearl Jam fit it to a T, that they were a bit more accessible than Nirvana, like...
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
Fucking Eddie Vedder isn't unpredictable like Kurt Cobain was.
Right.
You know? He was a bit more reined in. And they fucking ran them through the goddamn ringer, and they were just so fucking exhausted. And the cover of the CD version anyway, which I think is more powerful than the LP version.
Yeah, I gotta love it.
Is just this sheep just shoving its face through a fucking fence,
and you're just seeing
trying to get out,
being bared, and you can't see its eyes. It's just like, ah.
This was apparently a visual metaphor of how Pearl Jam felt on their record label, of just, please let us the fuck out of this. This is an extremely aggressive album, lashing out in so many different directions.
Oh, no doubt. I was so bowled over by this album.
Then I'm gonna start kicking air like this. And if any part of you should fill that air, it's your own fault.
People in my life, the record label, society, politics, you're all fucking getting these hands. And I've enjoyed Pearl Jam before, and I like some singles off 10. I've never really been big into Pearl Jam. No lie. I fucking went online and I bought this goddamn CD after I listened to it and reviewed it, because if all of Pearl Jam's music was like this, holy shit, this album is so fucking good. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness, so in your face, so intense, just different colors in every single song. Like, I went into this being like, this is gonna be that genre where everything sounds very crunchy and very, you know, dense sounding, you know what I mean? And this is like, oh, that's, like, it's kind of there, but there's so much more to it that it's just like this is in no, like, I see why this is related to Nirvana, but this is so different from it. Like, I don't see how you could actually compare, though. You know, like...
They definitely broke away from that. And I didn't even mention, by the way, that this was requested by Sig. Thank you, Sig. Yeah, this album, right out of the gate, lets you know that this is going to be a very different experience than 10 with Go, where it's funky and it's faster. Like, it's kind of got a little punk to it. And it's just, ooh, wow. A lot of the meaning of these songs is kind of up in the air. Only a couple of them are, like, concrete. I don't know. I just like the fucking go, fuck. It's like you see where it's going, and then later it's suck my.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I've never would have guessed that this is, like, this is fucking Pearl Jam? Like, yeah, I could tell because it's Eddie Vedder and I know his voice. But holy shit, this is like a totally different attitude than on the last album. Holy shit.
Some of these songs, like, didn't sound, like, I wouldn't have thought of this as grunge. I would have just thought of it as, like, oh, it's sort of, like, alternative, I guess, you know? Yeah, like the song Daughter. Like, the only reason that really sounds grunge is because his overly burly sounding voice, you know, like, don't call me daughter, not fit to. That kept throwing me off a little bit, you know, because it just sounds like this like big burly man saying, don't call me daughter. It's like, I wasn't going to.
I think it might apply to this one too, and again, reading into a little bit of the history, the way this album was produced, Eddie Vedder specifically hated the fuck out of it, and it was more or less just the environment they were in. They were put in like a super comfy... We kind of talked about this a little bit with the Pink Floyd album. Like, they established themselves as a big fuck deal with 10. So now in the follow-up, they really want to catch that lightning in the bottle again, so we're going to try to give you, like, the best environment for you to be artists and work and put out your stuff. And Eddie Vedder is like, I don't want this. Like, this is too cushy.
Oh, no. He got the dream of what an artist gets, and he's like, uh-oh, this was too easy. Now I'm not inspired.
But only one song in particular is directly in reference to their current situation, which is the other most highest rated song I have, because Go was a very high rated song for me. And tying it is Blood.
Oh, Blood is so intense. Blood is the most grunge sounding track.
It's my blood! Like, he's so mad on this song. He's so fucking frustrated.
When you think about what Daughter is about, it's really angry.
Yeah.
And then the sort of sequel song that a lot of people said, Rear View Mirror.
I'ma put this whole fucking town in my rear view.
The only ones you really ever get radio play are the way more easy to digest Daughter and Elderly Woman Behind the Counter in a Small Town, which I really like both of them anyway.
Oh, yeah, probably the greatest song on the album, honestly. Like, just that moment of, like, really realizing what it's about, like, the nuanced and intricate moment of what it is, and just like, oh, like, you know, it's about this person who's like, yeah, I'm coming back to a hometown and seeing someone who's like, oh, your life was just determined by you already living here and being stuck in these circumstances. Oh, it just kind of hits your gut. And the way it's so soft with the hearts and thoughts, they fade away. It's just like, oh, it really hits you. It really hits you. But yeah, they go all over the fucking place on this album, dude. Fucking now, at first, I didn't enjoy the songs as much. I thought it was gonna be like, this is gonna be like okay, like the first 3 tracks. Honestly, like I was cool with, but it did like grab me. I didn't even like Glorify G as much. It felt a little like oddly laid back for the topic of what it's about. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until Dissident and especially WMA where I just like my eyes had just like woken up where I was like, oh, they're not fucking playing on this album. White male American. Oh, Jesus Christ. I was like, go ahead, Pearl Jam, shit. With a fucking song about the police with those fucking lyrics like, he won the lottery with that voice when he was born. The way they fucking train. Oh, and the way he teases out with the next lyric is like, took his mother's white breast to his tongue, trained like dogs, color and smell, walks by me to get to him, policeman. And the metaphor of like, you guys are trained like dogs to act like dogs, like, because you treat people based on color and shit. And I was like, oh, fuck. And then when it hits that hook with the fucking drums going off in the percussion, police, my brother again. I was like, oh, fucking shit, let's rage. LA 92. Oh my God, I couldn't take it.
There's some songs where it's more straightforward and it's just easier to grasp because of it, but then there's other songs like WMA where it's got like the metaphor and it kind of makes you think of like what leads to what. In total, the songs I gave the lower ratings to, because I didn't hate any of these songs, we'll just go ahead and say that. Glorified G.
One of the band members had bought a gun, and he had written the song just sort of like off of things that he had heard throughout their conversation, and it really kind of like, whereas in other songs the abstract nature of it kind of works with how it's working, like this kind of felt just too mealy mouthed to really like get a full grasp on what the perspective was. You know what I mean?
Okay, so a member of the group bought a gun. Someone was like, "You bought a gun?" And he's like, "Hey, actually, I bought two." He's like, "Okay, so all this is kind of gonna go in
that's how
there."
It starts, yeah.
And so there's people in the group who are arguing about that, but none of that is in the song. Like the argument isn't, and like why they don't like guns isn't really in there. It's just kind of mocking people who like guns, but doesn't really tell you why they're doing it.
Yeah, and just like the hook of just like, you hear these very open sounding chords, and it's like, glorified version of a pellet gun. Like, this doesn't sound like, pointed, you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's very catchy. I like that, but overall, like, Rats, only because, for me, it's a less memorable track.
For me, I like Rats, but it's one of those songs where it's just like, oh, if this had the music video for it, like, oh, yeah, this probably would have been my favorite song. They don't compare, Rats, that part, like, that would have been so cool to, like, sing it. But then it's just, like, having that moment of, like, so what is this song actually about? Because he's saying that rats don't do these things, but these are things that rats do. And I'm just like, I don't understand, but I mean, I'm rocking out to it, but I'm just not sure what's happening.
Like, they're so lowly, but we're so much worse than rats. Like, okay.
He's saying like, oh, they don't shit where they're not supposed to. They don't take what's not there. It's like, but they do.
But they do, though. There are so many things you could say they don't do. Why? Like, they don't do a lot of things, is the thing. Yeah, how are you still tripping over the things they do?
I was thinking, like, if I listen to it, maybe it's going to be like, oh, they don't do this thing. And if you think about it, like, I guess if you think about it, they don't take what's not theirs. It's like, oh, well, if you think about it, I guess nothing belongs to anybody. So when they take food, it's just them trying to survive, I guess. And it's human beings who take what they're not supposed to, right?
Like, rats aren't greedy. They only take what they need kind of mentality. But, like, we take more than we need. Like, I think rats hoard, though, don't they? Like, that's still kinda... it's not exactly one for
it's
one.
Just like, it almost works, but it's like he didn't think well enough about how you could write something to be like, oh, you would think that's a rat thing, but when you think about it, that's actually a human thing. Like, no, these are just rats things that you're saying they don't do, but they do, and I don't understand. It still rocks out. I just don't understand. Like, he's trying to be an advocate for them, but he's not realizing that he's just saying the things that they do, which is just reinforcing that.
Again, another track where it fucking brings the funk in, and it's not something I'd associate right away with Pearl Jam is, oh yeah, it's fucking funky as hell. But no, there's fucking songs on here that surprise the hell out of you. And I didn't think this album ended the strongest with Leash or Indifference.
I actually feel like the first half of the album didn't grip me as much as the second half did.
I'm the opposite of that entirely.
Interesting. Because, I really enjoyed Leash. I like how that one sort of rocked with, and especially, like, just... Like, it was another one of those songs, like, I don't really know what it's about, but, like, it sounds like, in general, this album kind of sounds like it could be from the perspective of different animals. That's kind of the thing that I was getting a bit, because, you see the album cover, and I was like, oh, maybe this is what it's saying, like, yeah, let us off the leash, fuck you, drop the leash, get out of my fucking face.
Blood kind of could work into that too.
Oh, yeah.
If you're talking about like slaughter and stuff like that, that could apply.
And I enjoyed Indifference, like, and it was one of those, like, as I was listening to the lyrics, I was really enjoying what it was about, like, the idea of, like, oh man, you do as much as you can, but does it ultimately make a difference? Like, are we doing anything when you look at it in the grand scheme of things? Like, just having that stuckness, that feeling, I think it really encapsulated that in a very interesting way. So
I do like that that's a thought you end an album on. Like, it's kind of like a ellipses, like...
After all the anger, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what did that really accomplish? All that rage, what did that really... Like, we're still where we're at, we're still on this label, we're still doing these shit we don't want to do. Leash kind of had the same quality of Glorified G to me, where it was like, it didn't really say anything specific. Like, hey, I'm mad, leave me alone. It's basically just what I just got from that was just get out of my fucking face. I was like, yeah.
I think Animal was also another one where we're just kind of like, what is he saying here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's 5 against 1, and it's like, yeah, but why? What?
If Animal didn't rock so fucking hard though, like, again, I even have it written down that said, I don't know what the fuck it means, but damn, to go from Go and Animal, 2 of your most fucking intense tracks, and then to just turn that knob all the way back down for Daughter. Holy shit.
Let's go to the contemporary radio.
And the fact that I didn't care, like, I wasn't like, oh, come on, where's the fucking... I was like, no, I really like this song. I'm here for it. I don't care where it lands on the album. I'm gonna listen to it regardless.
The lyrics of Daughter, which are so, like, they just kind of bring you in because they just feel like you're giving you little clips of what's happening and not, like, the full picture. You know, like, just alone, listless, breakfast table in an otherwise empty room, young girl, and then violins. Like, the way he says that, where you're not sure if he's saying violence or violence. Yeah, and it's just, like, it gives you that off-color moment of, like, wait, what is happening in this, you know, what is going down here, you know what I mean? Yeah, and just how the verse ends up, like, painted room, can't deny there's something wrong. It's like, what's going on? And at the bridge, specifically the lyric where she says, she holds the hand that holds her down. She will rise above. Like, the way it kind of starts like it's about to go soft, but then it kind of, like, bangs right at that part a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, in a way that makes you think about what was just happening, or like, oh shit, okay, you're trying to say something here, okay. Like, I think this song would hit that much harder if there was, like, a female singer singing this, you know what I mean?
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. My mind has a messed up trajectory of, like, where I assumed this album was released, because in my head, you know, I came to prominence, you know, of pop culture around, like, what, like, maybe, like, 2000 to 2002, and that's around the time I remember watching, like, the band music videos, and you're like, ooh, look at this Madonna video of, like, this guy stripping, but he eventually rips off his flesh, and ooh, look at this video of, like, you know, the Stand video of, like, ooh, it's kind of like, you know, homoerotic in the narrative, so people thought it was kind of weird, like, that sort of thing, like, you know, and it involves, you know, throwing a woman in a pregnant woman in a trunk, you know, but yeah, I remember seeing, like, there was, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like, you know, MTV's most banned videos, or something like that. It was like, you know, videos we can't play during the day, and, like, I think Andrew WK, like, hosted it or something like that. And I remember seeing the Jeremy video, and how it's about, like, oh, this song's about a school shooting. And in my 2002 mind, like, I thought that song had come out a lot, like, more recently than it did. Because, like, my brain, you know, is in, like, Columbine mode in 99. So I'm thinking, oh, did that song come out, like, around then and was, like, a commentary? It's like, oh, that was 91?
Like, it had happened in a time when, like, gun
that
violence
was a shocking thing, right? Like,
it wasn't a thing that people really thought about, because there was, like, a couple of school shootings in, like, the 80s, and then there was a really long stretch before Columbine. Like, Columbine was the first, like, mass school shooting. And Jeremy isn't even a school shooting, it's just one kid kills himself and doesn't hurt anybody else. So you don't really think it's going there.
Yeah, like, it's so interesting that, because I remember this song being used as a personification of school shootings, but when you think about it, it's like, yeah, it doesn't even really function that way, and yeah, he just kind of kills himself, and yeah.
I remember thinking that that's what's so weird about that video, is that in an effort to censor it, they zoomed in really fucking far on, like, the kid's upper half of his face, so you don't see him put the gun in his mouth. and it looks grainy as hell because you're zooming in really far on this
that
picture.
now, yeah.
And then the next thing you see are kids splattered in blood, so you really don't know what is supposed to have happened there. Like, it messes with the message of, like, so did he just shoot all these kids? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I remember, like, not being sure, and maybe that's what it is. It's like the ambiguity of the video makes it seem like, well, it could be about him shooting up the school and then killing himself. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, they just kind of show blood, and you don't really see directly what's happening. Yeah.
Now, Dr. Goatman, no stranger to going
Dr.
off.
Goatman.
VIP, if you look on the Ko-fi right now, it's like Dr. Goatman and Shenna have requested like the most albums on the show.
You know what I was just thinking about, though, as I was listening to this album? So, I've been watching the Venture Brothers, and of course I'm, coming up with any excuse to bring up the Venture Brothers. So, within the show, it's kind of canon that David Bowie is, like, the main villain of that universe.
Oh!
And, like, but it's, like, that genius writing that the show has, where it's, like, they're not, technically they didn't out and out say it, because the characters don't, like, out and out admit to it, but it's one of those things where it's just, like, nah, you kind of get it, though. Like, David Bowie is apparently the shape-shifting, traveler from another world who is just making mischief on our Earth.
Interesting.
Oh, wow. That totally works, because he's, like, playing a, like, fucking supervillain in a sci-fi epic in this goddamn thing. Like, I'm one of those people who, again, I only heard, like, the singles of David Bowie and shit like that, and so I didn't realize how intricate and deep these fucking storytelling and all this shit really gets, man. God damn. The very first track, 8-minute fucking epic, right? And, I'm listening to this track like, oh, wow. Oh, man, this is really cool. And then I happen to glance over the album cover, and I'm like, David Bowie's in a dress? Wait, what's happening right now? In the first song, he has the lyric where he's like, brings it up. It's like, oh, this isn't just an aesthetic choice. This is a fucking narrative decision. Like, he says, I had so long and I waved bye-bye and I smashed my soul and traded my mind. Got laid by a young bordello who was vaguely half asleep, for which my reputation swept back home in drag. And the morals of this magic spell negotiate my hide when God did take my logic for a ride. And then it just rocks out and I was like, whoa. It's like we're fucking jetting off into the fucking ether right now. Going into that wild blue yonder, we're hitting fucking warp speed.
I like how this album takes what we listened to on the last album, where it's still a little folky at points, but it also it's right at that cross section of the folk and blues stuff, where especially like the first track is a really good example of that, in how the whole first half is more folky, and then almost halfway through, like, it switches to the bow, bow, bow,
right, yeah.
And you're like, whoa, okay.
And those dizzying guitar vibrato parts, the whoa, wee, 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 wee.
It's so fucking weird how we went from this guy who got signed specifically because Space Oddity was such a strange song and everyone loved it, and then it was like, oh, well, you got to put out an album. And he was like, well, I don't want to do a whole bunch of that. I'm just going to put out this, meager kind of folky album and throw that hit single on there so it'll sell. And it doesn't sell anyway because people already heard the single. And then it's like, well, okay. Maybe I do want to do some, branch out a little bit more. And we're going to make this more of like a rock album than the last one. And we're going to get a whole bunch of musicians involved here and kind of make the sound that much bigger. And it still doesn't sell because the record label didn't promote it. And it's like, okay. Do you want me to succeed here or not? So you liked this single. You liked this weird out there single. So I tried to give you a little bit more of that. And you still didn't even promote it. What the fuck do you want from me at that point? But this album, it's hit and kinda miss, like half miss, because I think when the songs hit, they hit pretty well, and we'll get to my favorite one later. The songs I think are a little bit weaker are the ones that just kind of like,
you know what it is? I think it's like this. There are songs on here that elevate, pop and rock music to such Olympian heights. That, like, there are other songs where it's just like, well, if you're not doing that, then it's gonna feel like a step down.
The songs I gave the lower ratings to were Black Country Rock.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
And She Shook Me Cold, which are pretty much straightforward blues cuts.
Yeah.
And not really... The only thing that makes them Bowie is his vocals.
Yeah, his voice, just that distinct British gentleman voice of his. And what I do appreciate about it is that, like, there is an honesty to it, because there were so many, rock musicians doing, like, black dedicated music where they're trying to do a black voice, and, like, he is specifically not doing that, like...
The thing that's interesting about both Black Country Rock and She Shook Me Cold is that they are both not only kind of generic, but they're also intentionally derivative. Black Country Rock is Bowie doing an impression of the lead singer of T-Rex, and that was kind of like hey, apparently he was known for doing a good impression of, like, I didn't pick up on that.
Right?
I listened to the song and I thought it sounded a little different. I was like, it sounds like he's doing a little something with his voice here. It doesn't sound like it did in the last two. I wouldn't have think, he's a dead ringer for the lead singer of T-Rex. And on She Shook Me Cold, Mark Ronson, the guitarist for the group, was hanging out with Bowie and his wife, and a Zeppelin song came on the radio, and Bowie's wife said, I bet you could write a better blues rock song than that. So they basically just wrote their version of a Zeppelin song, like, and it is that. Like, yeah, it's just a Zeppelin song, essentially, but I don't think it's as good as like a Zeppelin song, because it's a fucking pastiche. It's like a Weird Al style parody. It's not the authentic, genuine article.
Yeah. Although I did say I enjoyed at the end where he says, where he sounds like a madman. He's like, "You can wave me and my friends a fond adieu," and he does that like a goat or something like that. And it sounds like the recording like just captured it as it like was fading out. But it's such a great touch.
I love the personality. I love when Bowie interjects that type of shit.
You fall in love with the personality of the madness on this album. Like, because I think it was All the Madmen. That's the one where the loony flute, the puffy sort of music comes in with the boop, boop, boop. Sounds like a circus at one point. And he has that lyric where he says, "No point in getting high because it's so far down, out here." And I think, wasn't this the one where he talks about like "I'd rather stay here with all the madmen than perish with the sad men roaming free." Just like that realization of what he's saying,
What's really fascinating about this one is that it is a song written about his brother.
Ooh.
In that his brother was admitted to a mental hospital, but he didn't really have any particular issues. He just liked it better in there.
Oh, yeah, because that's what the song felt like it was about. So, wow, that's weird that that's true.
He would be let out every so often, and he would come home, and he would see Dave, and he would see the family, and he'd hang out for a while, and just be like, I'm gonna go back. And he would just go back.
Whoa. Because, I mean, I'm like, especially with 2020 eyes, like, we know mental health facilities weren't exactly the best back then.
No, but still, it's like, I mean, I'm getting shelter, I'm getting fed. Like, it's still better than, being out on the street. Like, at least you're, you got a roof over your head. So when there's lyrics in the song of, like, I tell him I'm a danger to myself and others. I'm a talk to the wall.
I will break my arm.
Yeah, and like all of that is just like, I'm just gonna act like I think they want me to, so they keep me here. And I love that. Like, it's such an interesting story. And David was like, yeah, I mean, like this, like he was talking about it like, yeah, it's just this thing he does. Like, he didn't really seem to think like it was weird or anything. Yeah, he just liked it better there. Whatever. There's another hint of familiarity on this track in particular. You mentioned the kind of lofty, airy flute. This track reminds me a lot of very early Pink Floyd, like first, second album, still Syd Barrett at the helm, where all of it just kind of sounds like it's just kind of gonna fly off the fucking record player and just like this shit's just out there, man.
Exactly. We're going on a journey through a magical land of elves, and
so much of that first and like those first few Pink Floyd albums just make you feel uneasy of just like this just feels weird, and I feel like it's making me anxious because of how
like, where am I right now? What's happening? Why does the music feel like it's levitating me?
a lot of that stuff makes it feel like someone just has their hands on your shoulders and are just rocking you. Like, could please stop? It's too much.
Oh my gosh.
Leave me alone.
Speaking of creepy, we get to After All, one of my favorite joints on this one.
Ooh.
Yeah, which sounds like it's from the perspective of a kid who's slowly figuring out that adults have no real authority. Like you hear the lyric where he says, "The thought had occurred we're nobody's children at all." And you just hear the airy shit, "after all." And it's just like, oh my god. Live till your rebirth and do what you will. Oh, by Jingo.
Look, the fucking Oh by Jingo is so goddamn creepy. So Bowie, at this time, was reading a lot of Nietzsche.
Oh,
and
getting real cerebral. This is cerebral pop music. This isn't your dad's pop music.
It's funny, if you read it up on Genius, he says that, yeah, I was in this phase where I was reading Nietzsche and I thought I understood it. So he's trying to apply a lot of those kind of nihilistic kind of mentality to songs like After All specifically. The Supermen is a take off the theory or the concept of the Übermensch, which is a Nietzsche
of course,
thing.
Yeah.
I don't read Nietzsche, so I don't know. Maybe someone in the comments can help. But yeah,
let's act like we know. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's fucking. I mean, if it's good enough for Bowie, it's good enough for me. So he's trying to apply these concepts, and I don't know if it works in the context of being a direct reference. I know it works in the way of it just being effective.
Yeah, creeping me right the fuck out.
And how this is absolutely a 1-2 punch of the juxtaposition of the music and the lyrics between After All and Running Gun Blues.
Ooh, Blues.
After All, you're singing, very up and cheery kind of. Like, the way you're singing is very cheery, but then the music is so dreary, and it's like a fucking dirge. And the way they're just chanting Oh by Jingo, which I wouldn't have known as a novelty song from 1919, that he's just referencing in this song. Of
I thought it's one of those things where, like, you don't know what they're saying at first, and you're saying, oh by what? And then when you realize, it's just like, I don't know what that means, but that just makes it sound weirder.
And the thing there is, hey, what would be really creepy over this fucking creepy instrumental is if I put a fucking reprise of this, like, old as fuck novelty song of, like, hey, here's this more cheery shit.
Especially sung through the weird ass, creakly British voice he uses there.
Yeah. And Running Gun Blues is the same, of where vocals are very kind of upbeat.
I mean, there's just a certain timbre to his voice in the song, yeah.
But the fucking lyrics, though.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Forget this! I'll bomb them out from under their beds, but now I've got the Running Gun Blues.
Like, oh no, I feel so bad for you.
Right?
Oh no, not you and your Running Gun Blues.
It's such a perfect, like, type of song where you immediately get what the commentary they're saying here,
The part I quoted was it seems the peacefuls stopped the war.
Oh.
Left generals squashed and stifled. But I'll slip out again tonight, because they haven't taken back my rifle. For I promote oblivion, and I'll plug a few civilians.
Whoa. And yeah, so when it starts off, it's like, oh, it's the good soldier doing what he's supposed to do when he kills, the people we tell him to. But then it's like,
we tell him to stop, and he just decides to ignore that. Just keeps killing anyway. Yeah, I don't think Bowie was known for explicitly political and like protesty songs, but this right the fuck here, how this doesn't get brought up in conversation of like Vietnam era protest stuff. The song legitimately ends with the sounds of bombs being dropped. Like,
it's chilling.
It's so chilling. And it doesn't get much better with Savior Machine.
Yeah, holy shit, fucking Savior Machine. I goddamn love this song. Oh, man. And,
it makes me hate She Shook Me Cold that much more, because you fucking went from After All to Running Gun Blues to Savior Machine, and then we wrote this kind of bluesy rock song as kind of like a joke, and why is it here? Why is it here, Bowie? It fucks up the momentum entirely.
And it just didn't feel good hearing him say, like, first off, like, here's this lyrics about, a futuristic world in which we're all screwed, and he starts off by saying, President Joe once had a dream. I'm like, oh, God damn it, no.
Oh, no, I didn't even catch that. Oh, Bowie, no. You done did it. You done predicted it. And AI, artificial intelligence. What did you know?
Yeah, but he says, he talks about the Savior Machine. They called it the prayer. Its answer was law. Its logic stopped war, gave them food, how they adored it till it cried in its boredom. Please don't believe in me. Please disagree with me. The way, like, the violins come in and just, like, build up what's happening, you know what I mean? Life is too easy. A plague seems quite feasible now. Or maybe a war. Or I may kill you all. Like, oh my God, it's so intense.
So unlikely concept of an artificial intelligence that a lot of people put a lot of faith in and believe it's going to be the source of it's going to be the solution to all their problems. And it does for a little while until it becomes self-aware and starts to think for itself. And it's like, wait a second. No. You really shouldn't be putting all this faith in me. I can fuck all of you over at any second, and I might just do it. Like, holy shit. It's so amazing. And it gets so chaotic towards the end, too, the music.
Insane.
Ooh, man.
Don't stake your dreams on a Savior Machine. Goddamn.
And then She Shook Me Cold. Then... The Man Who Sold the World, my favorite cut.
Sold the world. Your face. Dun, 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 Two-Face. Dun, dun, dun.
Man, I hate to say it, but like, if you were to pick up a greatest hits or something, I think you'd still be getting a really good experience of Bowie. Like, yeah, you're missing a lot of these deep cuts, and you are doing yourself a disservice, but goddamn, the fucking singles are all so fucking good. They're all so strong, like Changes and fucking Life on Mars and The Man Who Sold the World. I went into this and I was like, I really hope The Man Who Sold the World isn't my favorite cut on the album, because it's the fucking title track and it's the song everyone knows off of it. It's probably the only song most people know off this, because all the other cuts on this are pretty much deep cuts. And I'm walking away like, no. It's still the fucking catchiest song in the whole fucking album. It's still my goddamn favorite. Couldn't help it. I always wondered what the name of that one instrument was, where it just sounds like you're dragging something, like when you beat like a stick against a fence.
Oh, you mean like the percussion instruments where you're hearing like a grrr, like that sort of thing that was happening underneath? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I've heard it my whole life, and I was like, what the fuck is that? I learned it's called a guiro, because Genius was nice enough to let me know who did all the instrumentation on the album, and I was like, okay, which instrument doesn't ring a bell to me? Guiro? Yeah, what's that? Look at a picture? That's it! That's the motherfucker right there!
That looks like what that would be.
Because, yeah, just like the... Oh my god. And it's got everything. It's got the most iconic fucking riff on the song, and we went full circle to goddamn grunge and Nirvana, where if you look up The Man Who Sold the World, the goddamn Nirvana cover is more well known than the goddamn original. But then you got that electric organ, just the do 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 in the background, and the aforementioned Guitarro, and so much. and when they all just kind of come together towards the end, ooh, it's so good. It's got so much going on. It's so fucking good. And this song in particular, I think, kind of gives you the biggest glimpse of what Bowie is about to be. Like as an artist of just, I don't know who I am really. And it's like, uh-oh, here we go. Almost every album after this, we're gonna get Bowie either playing a character or some hyper exaggerated characteristic of himself. I sound sarcastic when I say that, but I really am for all of those anyway. I think it's cool, but that's the first kind of glimpse you get of the, you're face to face with the man who sold the world, and you're listening to it for a while, and then it kind of dawns on you that, like, he's talking to himself, or the character in the song is talking to themselves.
Like, the album starts off talking like that, where he's saying, I met a monster and it was me.
The fact that you got the Superman at the end of the album, though, is kind of weird, because he'd have nice bookends thematically. Superman is wild.
With that fucking live-ass percussion that starts it, man. Holy shit, the song, man.
This was the quote. I was still going through the thing when I was pretending that I understood Nietzsche, and I had tried to translate it into my own terms to understand it. So Superman came out of that. So I'm not familiar with the concept of the Ubermensch and all of that, but what we basically got here is Bowie takes it and turns it on its ear and creates this legend of these race of Supermen that were here before us. Like, you kind of picture like maybe like a race of giants or something. Like, they're just talking about, living and what it's like being immortal, essentially. But then it kind of slips and it's like, I don't want to be immortal anymore. This sucks. I wish I could die. And then finally the end of the song is like the release. Like, that escape they wanted for so long of like, oh my god, thank god I can die finally.
Like, this thing that we assume to be what you would love to happen, them absolutely just hating it. Maybe that's why super villains like this do what they do. It's like, somebody kill me!
Hey, will someone stop me already?
Who's going to stop me? Seriously, I want to know.
I got another 4 here.
Oh, I gave this one a 5, solid.
The few songs on here that fell a little short, the kind of more generic ones, they ended up kind of slipping a little bit for me, and the ones I wasn't as strong about. I'm not going to tell people what to request, but if we ended up going in order of Bowie releases, I would be so fucking here for that. Y'all have no idea.
Happy.
If we did Hunky Dory next, I'd be down for that. I like that. I like the trip to current day, because we already did the last one.
Yeah, we're going through the David Bowie Odyssey. Look at that.
We already fucking did Black Star. Might as well start over from the beginning.
That's true. It really is like a tale. Listening to this podcast has been like getting the sideways journey through David Bowie's discography.
You're listening to Black Star and you're watching the music video where like he's like got the headband across his eyes and everything, and like,
yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Having mentioned the requests, that's why we were talking about David Bowie and Pearl Jam this week.
That's right.
Out of our typical regular rotation of the hip hop releases, and
stuff usually from this decade generally.
yeah, usually. But that's the beauty of it. And if there's an album that you would like to request us to review, it is a one-time $60 pledge on our Ko-fi. That is ko-fi.com/goinoff. And if you recorded an album yourself and you'd like to hear our thoughts on it, that is a one-time $70 pledge.
And also, if you want to request a movie or song to review, that's also, you can go to, well, either one of the Ko-fis, but yeah, you can support it on there. And I was actually just thinking, like, the fact that, looking at the album list, like, it's so freaking long, but I was like, well, people could request a movie list. Maybe I should put that out there more, because, you know, it's like there are people who want to support the show, and they're just like, well, I mean, I want to support it, but there's like 80 things on there, but the movie one will come up quicker, so if you want to request a movie, that's definitely an option for you on the Review New podcast, where you can do that, but, you know, it all goes to generally the same people.
We've got a very interesting list ahead of us, so if you want to add a favorite album of yours or some weird oddity, obscura thing that you would just like to hear our thoughts on, or bring to our attention something we probably wouldn't have ever listened to otherwise, that happens pretty frequently.
Or if you have a really popular album that you're like, they better like what I like, or else I'm going to leave a hateful comment. You know, you can do that too.
You know, the world is your oyster. Who are we to tell you? We merely make suggestions, but what you request is ultimately up to you. And until next time, for Going Off, I'm Muse.
And I'm Rap Critic, and hey, all you landlords, drop the rent, and get out of my fucking face! Drop the rent!